Hey, what's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to look at some more games that I recommend you try on the Steam Deck. They're kind of like underrated gems, and I keep saying underrated gems and sometimes they're not necessarily that underrated at the time, but I think now when you look back at them, they're like, yeah, this works really well on the Steam Deck and it just makes for a real good experience to play again, you know? So let's get right into it. The first game, I've kind of been in the mood for some FPS shooters, some like World War II style shooters, and I could have gone down the route of Call of Duty, of course, but yeah, I'm kind of over Call of Duty games. I wanted a little bit of a spin on the Call of Duty style of World War II, so I went for Wolfenstein. So my first game for today is Wolfenstein. It's set in World War, but like with an alternate kind of like German spin on it with like sci-fi and technology kind of. So he plays BJ Blazkowicz. He's like this American hero. He's absolute beefcake, and it's just a really fun FPS shooter set in like Germany. And so basically you're trying to stop the Nazis from taking over the world, and you play as BJ Blazkowicz, and the gameplay is very first-person shooter, but the gunplay in it is very satisfying. Like, you can feel each weapon's different. Some of them are really OP weapons too, and you can dual wield like assault rifles. It's a bit crazy, so that's why I like it. It's not just like your generic Call of Duty. You know what it's going to be, the same kind of thing, missions and that, over and over again, and then you get to the end. But that's like very set in the times of World War II, whereas this is an alternate kind of history spin on it with sci-fi, and like the Nazis have mech technology and they've got like these robots, and like they're really fucked up in the way that they just like torturing people, and like you've got to make decisions, and it is at its heart an FPS shooter, but it works really well on the Steam Deck. As you can see from my gameplay footage here, you're getting 60 FPS if you turn the settings to like medium/high, and it just looks really nice. It just fits the Steam Deck perfectly. So this game came out in 2014, and I was enjoying it so much that I thought I'd install the latest version of the game, so Wolfenstein 2, so the sequel. And I was thinking, this sequel's relatively more modern. So the sequel actually came out in 2017. So it's around 5 years old now. It's not exactly new, but as far as the Steam Deck's technology goes, you'd assume it to run at probably like low, but no. I don't know what engine this is using. So this ID Tech 6 engine that they're using to make these games are surprisingly well optimized, and Wolfenstein 2 works really well. I had to set a couple of settings to like medium/high, put the sharpening up a tiny bit. I don't like too much artificial sharpening, but it works really well because it offsets like the blariness that the anti-aliasing introduces. So it's a nice offset. Just remove the motion blur option altogether. You don't need that crap. But it runs really well. As you can see from the gameplay here, I'm getting a solid 60. Sadly, you'll have to keep motion blur enabled in order to hit the 60 FPS on the Steam Deck. There's a really weird glitch with Wolfenstein 2 where if you disable motion blur, you get this real choppy FPS where it jumps from 60 to 30 to 60, and it'll just keep jumping between 60 and 30 all the time. So in order to solve that problem, you've got to enable motion blur, which is a bit of a shame, but it's something I can look past because I'm getting such good performance. And the battery life isn't even anything to scoff at either. You're going to get around 3 hours battery life minimum, which is, I think, really good. I know a lot of people for some reason think 3 hours battery life is really crap, but when I sit down and play a game on the Steam Deck, I'm not going to be sat down for 3 hours and not have a plug next to me, or I wouldn't really want to sit there for 3 hours playing a game. I'd like to do other things as well. So it just depends how you play games. If you're more of a binge gamer, then just sit next to a plug, I guess, unless you're traveling, and then you're going to have to monitor the time that you're playing. But I think 3 hours is perfectly acceptable for a handheld device that's playing a AAA game. Like I say, Wolfenstein 1 and 2 work amazingly well. Absolutely having a blast playing these again. They're great Nazi killing World War II games. Can't have too much fun with that. It's satisfying. Like I said, the gunplay, so good. So yeah, it's my two games I recommend so far. Wolfenstein 1 and 2. So pick them up, they're relatively cheap now if you check CD keys and all that, but yeah, if you're waiting for another Steam sale, definitely check these games out. If you like FPS shooters, they're very satisfying, and decent story too, you know? Some heartfelt moments in there, and yeah, will keep you hooked. A gem that I absolutely love, and I just really wanted to talk about it again because I kind of picked it up again. I know I speak about this game quite a lot, but if any of you guys are new to the channel, you definitely should pick up Max Payne 3. So this isn't necessarily underrated, but it's kind of forgotten about now. If you have never really played Max Payne before and you're like, Rockstar, I love GTA, but I've never really played any of their other games, I 100% recommend you to try Max Payne. So it's a lot more linear, so a level is a level in Max Payne, it's not open world, so you go from point A to point B, and whatever the level is, you're normally shooting people, but the gunplay in this is so satisfying. I absolutely love Max Payne 3, it's one of my favourite games. I play it every year almost. If you're a fan of the channel, you've probably already heard me talk about it quite a lot, but if you're new to the channel, it is so cheap now on CD keys, just pick it up. But if you like third-person action games, where you can like bullet time dive, you know, you've slow motion, you've got loads of different guns to choose from, you can dual wield them, and it's just with Rockstar's engine as well, so you're getting the ragdoll physics, you're getting the awesome, I don't know, physics, I guess. The ragdoll physics always wins me over, like especially when you go bullet time and then you can see the bullet going into their bodies and they're like shaking around, and you're just going from really cool locations. Like this one's set in Brazil a lot, so you're in like Sao Paulo. So yeah, it's set in Brazil. It's set in a variety of locations, like on a yacht. I mean, you've got missions set in New York, which are like a throwback to old Max Payne stuff. It's just a really fun third-person game. I highly recommend it. If you're a fan of like shooting, third-person action games with decent stories too. I mean, Max Payne, he's a great character. He narrates over the whole thing as well, so he has a real witty sense of humour. It's just a really fun game, and it works at high settings at 60 locked, and it gets a great battery life on the Steam Deck. So I'll always recommend Max Payne 3. In fact, I'm thinking about replaying it again, and I only just finished it I think it was like last summer I finished it. It's just such a fun game to jump in and shoot around and kill a bunch of gang members or drug cartel members or anything like that. So yeah, Max Payne 3, 100% recommend it, check it out. So a really underrated gem that definitely doesn't get spoke about in modern day times, really. I hadn't really heard about this game in a long time, but Spec Ops: The Line. So this is another third-person shooter. I guess I could really title this video third-person, first-person shooters, with war themes, because Spec Ops: The Line is like it's almost like a third-person shooter. It's set in Dubai, and you're playing as this so you're playing as this Elite Force Delta team, and it's got a few mechanics where you've got two other people with you on your team, and it's kind of like you can tell them to go do things. So it's like got a group almost kind of play style where you've got a team around you at all times, but you play as one character, and he's like the leader, voiced by Nolan North, so that's pretty cool. And basically you're uncovering this like very dodgy conspiracy-esque theory storyline in Dubai. It has kind of like an Apocalypse Now kind of feel, and it also has like a big one of the big story kicks is like your mental sanity, like your character's sanity, and just the things he's experiencing, like PTSD almost throughout the storyline. And the combat is satisfying. The storyline is pretty dark, and yeah, it's just set in Dubai, which isn't normally a setting for a war game. So it's really cool. I mean, it's like I say, underrated gem. It does have a few hitches on the Steam Deck, but you basically just have to use the Proton GE. So I'd use the Proton GE launcher to play this game. But yeah, it came out in 2012, so this is like kind of one of the older era style of games that should, in theory, if they're optimized well, should work well on the Steam Deck and give you a good battery life. And it does. It just requires a tiny bit of tweaking. But for the game that you get to play with it, and the storyline it tells, and the squad-based action, the weapons, the third-person elements to it, it is a really fun little short game. I think it'll last you around 8 or 9 hours, so that's pretty much perfect length for one of these kind of games. But it's unique, and I don't think it's spoken about really that much at all now. So Spec Ops: The Line, definitely have a look, check it out, see what you think if you're in the market for like a squad tactical squad third-person shooter set in Dubai, which is like a unique setting. So, and the last game I want to talk about today, which is completely different to any of these games, I just thought I'd throw in a curveball. It's actually OlliOlli World. So this is like an arcade skateboarding style game, and you basically create a character, and you get to go through these really wacky levels where it's like a 2D skateboarding game. It has kind of like a 2D 2.5D element to it in certain points, but you're pulling off tricks, you're trying to get the best score, but these levels are all really uniquely designed where you've got to be aware of the environment. You've got to like wall ride up certain things in order to make it to the next part, and it gets really addictive to the point where you like, in order to get 3 stars or the maximum amount of stars in a level, you have to complete the whole level without falling off your board, and towards the end of the game, that is extremely difficult. So it has a lot of challenge, has a lot of replayability. The soundtrack absolutely slaps. It's got some absolute bangers on there. One of my favourite soundtracks in a while for a game. But these songs play whilst you're playing the game. I just think it's a really chill skateboarding game that's kind of like easy to learn but really hard to master, especially when you start doing the really wacky levels. Like I said, the different levels, there's almost like different segments on the map, and they all like have different biome styles, and they're just different in the layout of the level and the environment. But yeah, it's a really fun game, has a really quirky art style, and it's just one of them games I keep going back to improve my score or play another level on it. I've still not finished it, but it's one of them games I just like going back to. But if you're in the market for like a cool arcade skateboarding game to play when you have a few minutes to just go on your deck, play a couple of minutes, and yeah, I'd highly recommend OlliOlli World. So let me know what you guys have been playing this week in the comments, and let me know what you think to the list today. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you soon.